Hey ladies, thank you so much again for tuning in. So last week I spoke about pivoting. And so this week I want to talk about more fear and how that sometimes comes up as we're making these choices in our lives. And also I want to encourage you to see your whole vision through. So um, this week, I've been listening to a book that I purchased earlier in the month called Living Like a Monk. That's by Jay Shetty, who I love. Like I love his his whole way of just encouraging people to really live out their purpose. And so to give you a little bit of backstory about his own story. He actually, after college, he went off and he lived as a monk for a while, and then he took the teachings that he learned in that chapter of his life, and now he's created, his own empire around helping people identify and live out their own purpose in life. So in his book, he talked about fear. And so a lot of the things that I'm going to share with you today come from the book and from what he shared, because I'm on a growth journey just like you. And when I come around these like gems, I want to share them with you guys in hopes that they will help you and they will encourage you to keep moving in the direction that you want your life to go. So he started off the chapter with an amazing quote that really like blew my mind. And so it's by Buddha. And the quote is, "Fear doesn't prevent death, it prevents life." So let that like sit with you for a second, because it is so true. Like when we have these jolts of fear, like they're not going to prevent, like bad things from happening. They're going to stop us from really identifying solutions, that will help us get past those challenging times. And so what fear does is it disconnects us from our abilities. It because we're capable of so much in life. Like if you just look at everything that you've survived in your life, you have the strength to do anything that you choose to do, right? But fear sometimes blocks us from seeing that. So it's simply like a warning flag. Most of the time it's a warning flag, right? Like if you're not in immediate danger, it's just a warning flag, like telling our brain tells us like, whoa, like something might go wrong here. And the key word there is might, because I don't know what it is about fear, but suddenly fear comes into the picture and we are these incredible storytellers, right? We start to create these stories in our head. Like if our pivoting move is, like moving somewhere else, we start thinking like, well, am I going to have money to like pay the rent there or to pay the mortgage? Or, if we're making a career move, we start thinking like, am I going to have the knowledge for this? Am I smart enough? This and that, like all these things start to spring up. Am I going to fail? Blah, 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 blah. So that's what fear does, right? It makes us these amazing storytellers, but it's simply just a warning sign. It's like something might go wrong. However, if we flip the dialogue that we have with fear, and instead of, having the emotional reaction of like panicking or freezing, which are shorter term strategies that we use to deal with fear, and or we go to like extremes, which are more long term strategies, like we run away from it, or we run away, or we bury the situation, but eventually everything comes back up, right? It comes back up again if we don't deal with the situation. So it's like I mentioned, it's very important to flip our relationship with fear. So how do we do that, right? Instead of allowing it to make us feel overwhelmed, to make us feel hopeless, which brings on stress and anxiety, It makes us feel stuck. And it makes us do nothing about it, right? It paralyzes us. So if we flip it, we can use it to develop solutions, to focus. Like if we focus on the guidance that it's giving us, then we can change the direction of where we take ourselves, and where we and how we deal with certain situations. So the way to do this, and this was an exercise that Jay suggested, is we tap back. So you sit in a quiet space where you will not be disrupted, and you take yourself back to a situation that really, really scared you, and you really like feel it out. You feel out like the smells, the sights, the sounds, like all of it. Feel it out. And then that's like the first step. You acknowledge what that fear is, and you ask yourself, like, what are you really afraid of? What were you really afraid of in that moment? And keep asking yourself until you get to the root of it, because whatever that root is, that's probably the reason why you're feeling a certain type of way in that moment. Even though the situation is different, that feeling is still rooted back to that situation in the past. So that's the first step. You acknowledge and you identify the root of your fear. Now the next step is actually a really great exercise. So you write down, you make a line, and on one end you put a 1, and then on the other end you put a 10. On the end where you have the 10, you write down one of your biggest fears, and really make it like big, something like losing a loved one, or feeling embarrassed, or feeling like you failed. Those are some of my biggest fears. And then whenever you get that jolt of fear in somewhere in life, when you're making a big move in your life, rate it on that scale. Like, where does it sit, compared from the 1 to your biggest fear? And by visually seeing that, then like your brain can start to process, like, oh, like this might not be so bad. It's just an emotion I'm feeling, but it's not putting me in any immediate danger, and by knowing that, you can work through it, and instead of fear paralyzing you, you can start to work through it and keep yourself moving, even like small steps, taking smaller steps. I feel like every day, if you take a small step in the direction where you want to go, you're gonna get there, so that is the next step. And so the last step is detaching yourself from fear. So what do I mean by that? When we are fearful of something, we say, I'm scared, right? So we're attaching our identity to that emotion. I'm scared. I'm anxious. I'm stressed. However, if we flip it and we say, I feel anxious, I feel stressed, I feel scared, then we can, once we detach ourselves from it, we can actually start to work towards finding a solution. Like, I feel scared right now. Why do I feel scared? What's happening? And once we identify that, then we can work through it. So those are a couple of the tips that he shared on there. And I wanted to really talk about this because, like I mentioned last week, I spoke about pivoting, and there's a lot of fear that comes with that, because it's when we make new moves in our lives, they're new, right? They're fresh. And there is going to be a point in this new chapter of your life where you're going to feel scared, where you're going to, or you might there might be something that blocks you, like you might not know the answer to something, and then you're having a hard time finding it, and you start to question yourself, like, did I make the right choice? and I want to encourage you to see your vision through. If it's something, like I said it so many times in the past, if it's something in your heart and it keeps coming back, then you owe it to yourself to really like go all in and see it through. Another great saying, I don't know where it came from, I don't know who said this, but I think it was John Maxwell. It's like, you can fail forward, right? Like, no matter what, like if you see the vision through and it's not exactly what you had hoped it would be, you still learn so much along the way. And as long as you're not in any immediate danger, it's not the end of the world, right? And I also wanted to share this because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and she is really, wanting to make a career change in her life. And I was like, okay, well, talk to me about it. Like, why, what brought this on? And she was just, going on about how she's feeling that, where she's at right now and what she's doing is not really fulfilling her. And it's actually affecting her own health. So, I was like, okay, well, what's stopping you? Right. And then she talked about fears that many of us go through, like the fear of not having the financial security. That was one of the fears that she has. And I was like, girl, I totally know where you're coming from, because in my own choices, like I have that fear, pop up every like it just pops up. And I really need to work through that, and I need to recenter myself. And the way I do that is through prayer, but whatever floats your boat, go for it. Whether it's meditation. I recently saw this like really beautiful video of a girl who was hiking, and she just took a couple of minutes. She like crouched down to the ground, and she just touched it, and she thanked Mother Nature, for everything that she does to hold us up, and I was like, wow, like it's like this really significant, I don't know, like it was a very significant moment that symbolized, just like grounding yourself, right? And when we do that, like it kind of quiets down fear, and it reminds us that's like, okay, we're safe, we're good, like there is a solution for this, for how I'm feeling. So anyways, I know I was a little bit all over the place, but yeah, I was going back to my friend, like I was talking to her, and that was one of her fears. So then I asked her, like, okay, like what is the worst case situation, if you make this career choice? And if it affects you financially. And she said, well, the worst case scenario is I go and live with my parents for a little while until I get, back up on my feet. And so I was like, okay, then that's the worst case scenario. Like, you have somewhere to live, right? You're going to have food on your table. You're going to have clothes on your back. You're going to have what you need in order to see your whole vision through, right? And in order to elevate yourself, because what you're doing right now, it's not really serving you. So why not go and pursue something that I felt really, really lit her up inside, like when she was talking about it, I felt it. And so, but it takes either talking to somebody about it or having that moment to yourself, and really like asking yourself those questions, like, okay, what am I afraid of? What is the worst case scenario? And then, and then once you do come face to face with those things, then you can move forward and take action, because that's the next step, is continuing to take action. Like, you cannot let fear paralyze you, because once it does, like, it's just going to make you feel stuck, and it's going to make you feel more anxious and stressed, and it's just not going to serve you. So I hope this was helpful. please do not let fear get in the way from living your best life. If you have any questions, let me know, comment below, or shoot me a message. You know, we're friends here. So I hope, again, this was helpful, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye. Love you. Take care.